Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. As I record this video, the market's sliding just a little bit, and even if the price for XRP or any other coin you care about is a bit lower by the time you're watching this, fear not. On a higher time frame, meaning big picture, no analysts that I follow are concerned that we're not going to see a very strong continuation of this market cycle to a final peak with blissful euphoria at some point in the not too distant future. It's coming. It's more so a question of what happens in the short term, and if you're curious about that and want to get into the nitty gritty, well, I'm going to share with you perspectives from a number of reputable sources here. And even if you're like me and all you do is hodl and you're not a trader, it is worth following this stuff, because that way, if the price goes down, you cannot emotionally respond negatively, because we are our own worst enemies when it comes to investing in crypto. If this is going to get screwed up by somebody, it's probably going to be you. It's probably going to be yourself, okay? Because people panic sell, they FOMO into stuff. There's all the human psychology that makes markets what they are. But data shows that those who just have broad exposure to the market, they hold for however long it takes, they hodl, those are the people who actually win. Not the traders, not people who get cute with their positions, this and that. But yeah, the rally's coming. In fact, I'm going to share with you perspective from a number of XRP chart analysts. One who says, in regard to XRP, and this is a quote, "It'll lead a violent rally," end quote. You know what? I don't freaking doubt it, okay? But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. As I record this video, it is 8 p.m. on the dot Central Time, which is my time zone. It's Thursday, September 4th, 2025. XRP is down a little bit, $2.78. The whole market's down. It's a sea of red, but it's nothing too terribly dramatic here. Bitcoin down to what? 110,511 bucks. Nothing crazy here. Take a look at this post from on-chain analytics firm Sentiment. Now, this post is from about 4 hours ago, 3:56 p.m. Central Time. They're not exactly concerned here. And I'm a huge fan of Sentiment. They do excellent work consistently, and they're extremely data-driven. And so here's what Sentiment had to say. There is a major bullish divergence that has been forming over the past 2 weeks. Bitcoin's market value has dropped 5.9% since August 22nd. The S&P 500 has risen 0.4% since August 22nd. Gold has risen 5.5% since August 22nd. Now, since early 2022, cryptocurrencies have been especially correlated with equities, as institutionals have increasingly added exposure to them alongside their stock holdings. In cases like this divergence over the past 2 weeks, Bitcoin and altcoins, so that would include XRP, my friends, have a high probability of playing catch-up when they trail world economy price trends for a sustained period of time. Did you hear that, folks? That's the fact. That's not a promise of what's going to happen here. That's just, hey, we've seen tons of scenarios like this. When XRP and alts and Bitcoin, when it all trails behind these other things, you ultimately see catch-up, and in a big way. They then write, the larger the gap between equities and Bitcoin, the stronger the argument there is for an upcoming crypto bounce. So, and that's true, because there is obviously, if you just zoom out over a very long period of time, there's a very obvious correlation between the stock market and crypto. So, of course, if you're seeing the stock market behave in that way, equities, and if you're not seeing the same thing in the short term for Bitcoin and XRP and the altcoin market, well, historically, what happens? You do play catch up. So that's why I'm saying, even if by the time you're watching this, the market is down to whatever degree, what I'm telling you is, in my humble opinion, it does not matter. It just doesn't freaking matter. That's the type of stuff that make people feel things, and then they'll respond. They will participate in the market in ways that perhaps they'll reflect on once they have the benefit of hindsight. They're like, wow, that's pretty severe case of dumbassery. That might happen, which is why I don't get cute with the market. I just hodl and I win. That's it. What I've invested in crypto over the years is worth way more than what I put in. And why? I'm not some sort of wizard. I'm no finance guru. I'm just a dude on the internet named Moon Lambo. What a silly ass name. But here I am making life-changing wealth by doing literally nothing. I've been holding since 2017, and I've bought over the years. And the longer I hold, the more it's worth. Doesn't mean everything that I buy is going to be worth a fortune in the future, but I brought exposure. It's about the overall crypto portfolio and focusing on large caps and maybe some mid caps. And I do hold a few small caps, but that's a way higher risk. It's an acceptance of way higher risk, and I'm not counting on those things for the life-changing portion of my wealth in crypto. I'm just not. Large caps in crypto are more than sufficient at this stage in the game. Now, decades from now, are large caps going to get you rich in crypto? No, because there will be too much money in them by then. But you are so fortunate. If you're listening to this in 2025, congratulations. You live in a time where you actually can get ridiculously wealthy investing in crypto because there's so little money in these things. It's because the market is not particularly liquid. That's why there's opportunity here. Here's a post from chart analyst Dom. He says, if Bitcoin loses $108,000, it is arguably the first step back this entire cycle. And if you're looking at the screen, you can already see he's showing you a chart going back to the end of 2022. It's actually about the second half of 2022. He says, I always love to think of an uptrend as a staircase. When you are going upstairs, do you ever take a step back? Structure can be looked at as the same way. Why take a step back? And so it doesn't mean that the market can't in any given moment go lower. That clearly is not the argument that he's making. Look at the levels that he's citing as resistance and support. What he is showing here is that after a key resistance is broken going back all these years, it comes back down to tested as support. Yes, and that's fine, but it doesn't just fall through that and then continue upward. That's the argument that he's making here. So he's citing $108,000 as a key level. Other analysts that I follow were talking about $105,000. Maybe we're just splitting hairs there. Either way, that's the level that he's recommending here, and he's noting that we basically are at that key support level. So is that support level going to go back into being resistance? Well, I would hope not. And see, that's why analysts like Credible Crypto and the Blockchain Backer and Crypto Insight UK have cited that $105,000 level for Bitcoin, and that's why the Blockchain Backer said if we go below 105K, that's when he'd start to be seriously considering that perhaps the top is in for Bitcoin. Now, the good news is, even if that happens, we can still have an environment where altcoins like XRP run wild. So it won't ruin stuff for us, but it would certainly, and it should be your preference, it's certainly my preference, that Bitcoin continue to the upside, because the more money flows into Bitcoin, the greater the amount of money that's going to rotate into XRP and everything else before this thing's all over. Here's a post from Credible Crypto, Bitcoin USD chart here, and he says, I'm just watching our last swing low at $108,400 right now, as if we breach that, we probably go for the range lows at $107,200, which, if you recall, is where I am interested in considering a long opportunity. Now, he's talking about trading, although he does hodl. It says, and if we can hold above $108,400, then there is a chance we get another push to the upside, along with another higher low, and potential for continuation to the liquidity resting above at $117,000. So we make it much more substantial relief in the short term, depending on how things go. So if lower, by the time you're watching this, don't freak out. Also a possibility it could go higher. And I know that's for people that don't understand the value of chart analysis. So you're saying it could go up or down or stay sideways. Oh, okay, thanks. And then they'll mock it like that. I'm like, dude, it's not all that they're saying. They set specific parameters. If certain things happen, certain things are more probable. And so when you simplify it like that, you're basically speaking like a midwit. That is not the case here. Here's a post from on-chain analytics firm Swissblock, and they wrote, Bitcoin is breaking out from the critical zone. A straight slide to $100,000 was never the base case. The wall resisted until now. Above, there is the $113,600 to $115,600 gate, so resistance there. After a pullback, price needs fresh momentum to clear it, then contend with heavy resistance into $118,000. Now, that is very close to the level that Credible Crypto is talking about. Isn't that fascinating? So there's a recognition we actually could get up to that range sooner than later. Nobody knows for sure. That's not the point of chart analysis. You don't know for sure. It's about probability of outcomes. And for regular people like me, and hopefully you who don't trade, I hope you don't trade, because it's like everybody trades loses money, almost all of them. It's valuable for us to help keep emotions in check, because if you're watching crypto on a daily basis like I am, I'm just telling you, you need your sanity. And if you know that certain bad things could happen, then if they happen, you're like, okay, well, I knew that that was certainly a possibility, no big deal. But if you get caught off guard, you're more likely to feel emotions and then panic over it and then make stupid financial decisions. All right, here's an XRP BTC chart, an XRP BTC chart shared by Crypto Wizard, and he simply said, "Let it break. It loves a pattern. XRP against Bitcoin has formed a symmetrical triangle. Once this breaks, it'll lead a violent rally that will send XRP to $3.65. Patience pays." And he's showing how the trading range for XRP on this pair has been narrowing ever since XRP hit a new all-time high on the XRP USD pair in July. And so that's how the chart's being shown. So this is not XRP USD, it's XRP BTC, but it's still been narrowing here. And before it gets to the apex, it's probably going to break out. Which way do you think it goes? I'm going to guess up because we are still in a bull market. Even if Bitcoin still got one last parabolic move, which I suspect is more likely than not the case, even if, I still think XRP is going to substantially outpace it. To me, that there's no question there. Here's a post from Crypto Insight UK. I actually got two posts from him. The first one's from early morning, and the second one's from late morning today. So this, what time is this? 3:45 a.m. Central. And so he says, after taking the first key level on the daily, XRP ETH did retrace yesterday. I would like to note the retrace had significantly less volume than the previous day. I am still extremely locked in on this chart. I think it is one of the most important charts for XRP. It was a precursor to XRP's last expansion. Looking for a confirmation of a structure change here on the 4-hour. And so, he's been talking about XRP ETH a lot, getting closer. And here's a second update today. This is from 9:56 a.m. Central, so not that long ago, about 10 hours ago. And he said, again, decent volume coming in on the 4-hour XRP ETH chart. Nothing confirmed yet, but let's see if we can continue to make a higher high here and look to attack our next key area of interest above. This would look to give us a more promising signal of a trend reversal back to the upside. And so what I keep seeing from analysts, no matter what chart they're looking at, is that we're at this moment where any day we literally could start bursting to the upside. Now, of course, I acknowledge, and they acknowledge, you could see a little bit lower first, but it's exciting because we're getting super close. You're not going to consolidate on any chart literally forever. Eventually something's going to happen. And so that's why my attitude, given that the crypto asset class and the whole gets bigger the more time passes, I'm just going to have exposure consistently no matter what happens. And that's how you win in crypto. Here's a post from chart analyst Malius. He's talking about Ethereum here, but I want to talk about this in the context of what it might mean for XRP, because this is interesting. And this, so this post is from this afternoon at 2:04 p.m. Central, so it's new stuff. And he says, with this higher time frame chart on Ethereum, I would like to present you a bigger picture so you don't lose hope on lower time frames, meaning the short term, but rather focus on higher time frames, meaning the big picture. After the last impulse, we now got only one red weekly candle with people already losing patience. Recently, we've got a first bearish cross on weekly WTO after first impulse, with RSI reversing in similar area as to previous cycle. Marked the zone in blue so you can see comparison. Meanwhile, structure pretty much the same. EMA 50 is now on all-time highs, guys, and this is bullish, so don't let the noise confuse you. Even if we correct further down and potentially revisit demand clusters in green, nothing would be wrong with that structurally. I expect 5-figure ETH this cycle, and I'm confident in my prediction. Okay, so that's actually a pretty common prediction that we're going to see Ethereum hit, even if it peaks there around $10,000. That nobody really thinks that's particularly buck wild. I don't know if it's going to hit or not, but that's not buck wild. That seems to be like a pretty reasonable, maybe even conservative price prediction, depending on who you're asking. And it's not hard to understand why. I mean, that's only a twofold increase, roughly, from Ethereum's all-time high last market cycle several years ago. So just a 2x from one high to the next, nothing crazy there. There's certainly enough money in the market to make something like that happen. So given that XRP historically has fought with Ethereum at key moments for that number 2 spot in market cap, specifically before the SEC artificially suppressed the price of XRP before the lawsuit, so 2017, 2018. Given that's the case, if XRP matches that market cap when Ethereum is at $10,000, that would put XRP at like over 20 bucks. That is not crazy stuff. XRP has been suppressed. It is playing catch up. That's why it's one of the many reasons it's the number 1 performing coin out of the top 100 since the November election. And then he says, now you may ask, but Melius, is it necessary that we chop for some more weeks or even correct lower? No, it's not. We may just chop in a bull flag and then grind high soon. I am showing you a possibility that nothing would be wrong with that, if it happens, so you are not shocked in such a case. And folks, that's what I keep saying. You just need to be aware that if the negative happens, not the end of the world. But maybe we do grind higher sooner. And I do keep seeing that acknowledged. You can't always tell based on the information that's available in the charts. Sometimes the right answer from reputable chart analysts is, I don't know, it could go either way, and that's perfectly fine. And then he says, this would only happen if first demand cluster is lost on Bitcoin, meaning the market is not ready yet for fun, which doesn't mean it's not coming. This was included as part of our weekly market update on his Discord, Patreon, so on and so forth, he says. Then there's this from chart analyst Zoom. XRP. These things break when you least expect it. And this is an XRP USD chart. He says, if broken towards the upside, the first resistance is the $3.15 zone. If XRP breaks below, it should be a swift move to the $2.50 to $2.60 zone to sweep liquidity, but that would only energize it to make a move higher. But don't be mistaken, I'm very bullish on the high time frame. So there's a and I've seen tons of stuff from analysts recently. Could go a little bit lower. It's nothing to be terrified of. This stuff happens in crypto. Nothing would be weird. That would have nothing to do with XRP's fundamentals, just to be clear. And as long as the fundamentals are strong, then when the market's strong, XRP is going to be a strong participant. That's it. XRP's fundamentals have never been stronger now. They've never been stronger than they are now. It just doesn't make sense to think that this is the moment. It's all dead. It's over. It's done. That is so irrational. There's no way in hell that's happening. Not a freaking chance. Here's a post from Greg Crypto. He says, XRP update. Number 1, we need XRP to close above $2.85. Well, didn't get that today. Number 2, closing above $2.90 is crucial. 3, the range of $3.07 to $3.13 is a key area. A strong close above it with high volume could pave the way for the next move. However, the inconsistency in candle closures above $2.85 is making me feel uneasy. And my friends, I'm telling you, I'm seeing lots of posts along those lines acknowledging, hey, this isn't the strongest, or hey, we could go to these levels. Chart analyst Zoom, I just showed you what he had to say about that. Yes, and here's another example. Chart analyst Ali Martinez. He says, XRP must hold $2.70 support. Lose it, and $2.35 could be next. So I'll let the chart analysts squabble amongst each other as to what is the likely lower level if support is lost, so on and so forth. But you can see the recurring theme here. There's acknowledgement that we could be going lower first. And it wouldn't be XRP in a vacuum, it wouldn't be XRP in a vacuum to which this is happening. I don't think that's remotely probable. If XRP goes that low, it's probably because Bitcoin went lower and the rest of the market did too. Normal stuff in crypto, even at the end of a bull run, nothing to freak out about. And then there's this from Ripple Van Winkle. He says, XRP has been coiling for 7 years. You don't consolidate for nearly a decade just to break out by 10 cents. This setup isn't a bounce. It's a full-on repricing event. The chart is screaming liftoff. October changes everything. Yeah, well, we'll see what the time frame looks like, but I've shared a message very similar to that many times over the years. It was small in particular ever since XRP has hit its all-time high or even started moving in that direction after the election. I don't think that XRP was artificially suppressed that long, consolidated the better part of a decade just to get a little above an all-time high and be like, okay, I'm done here. Yeah, I doubt that. I think this thing's going to melt faces before it's over. That's my base case. I firmly believe that, and if not, then I'll be just as disappointed as everybody else, but I do believe firmly that's what's most probable, and so I'm just going to hold because I'm going to be here no matter what happens, and I think ultimately the the part that matters is going to be a move to the upside. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because if anything I say are right, that would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.